Okay, so finally at a year and a half of doing proper immersion learning. For me, for anyone else who hasn't watched the other videos that I had up, I've been doing I've been trying to learn German for about 8 months before I found Ajatt, and then a little bit after that, the whole MIA side of things, and kind of gotten into it from there. And I started pretty intensely, like I was very full on for quite a long time. For the first solid year I was very full on. Yeah, so just that quick overview for anyone else who doesn't know. So I've been technically learning German for over 2 years, but really a year and a half has been like 80% of the progress. I suppose we'll go on to where I'm at the moment. I was watching, I think it was Justin Armstrong's update video for his French stuff, and he was talking about his levels of comprehension with the refold levels, and I was thinking that's actually a much better idea than trying to do it with percentages, which is kind of what I had done when I wrote this up. Yeah, so I'll give both, but I think the levels of comprehension probably tell more about how much and in what way you're understanding things. Okay, so we're just going to like what I'm watching, which would be YouTube, Netflix sort of thing. So all of these shows, the first 4 here, they're all just native German shows. So my kind of rating for most of the stuff that I'm watching on Netflix and YouTube at the moment is like a solid level 4, you know? I feel like that's very good description. It would probably go between 4 and 5 depending on kind of content. Like there are some things that I would enjoy and just watch at like a level 5, like genuinely. Not that much though, I'd say it just sort of hovers in between these two. So these shows here, like Tanbach, is a bit more difficult, so it's definitely not anywhere near 5. But there's like a lot of dubbed content, I'd say would be near a 5. Maybe not a full, but like getting there. Yeah, so I just took an example and I watched like 1 episode of this show, and there was 8 words that I either wanted to look up to double check meanings or I just didn't know them. So that's a little bit of an indicator. Like this is a dubbed show, so it's not, you know, as difficult. The content is really light. So that's the sort of shows that I'm watching, and like Berlin is pretty everyday. I do find it kind of difficult just because it's so like a little bit difficult. Like I find the other shows a little bit more, but it's very like quick. People speak quite quickly, and I don't know, it's very everyday. It's nice. I should really get like into watching it a bit more. There's another show that I forgot to add to this. It's called Verliebt in Berlin, and that's like a telenovela. It's got like 300 episodes for the first season and then another 300 for another season. So that's definitely something that I'd like to watch again. It's just taken me a while to find a good website to watch it on. And then YouTube stuff is again, yeah, like 4, 5 sometimes. The show Druck, I don't know how to say that properly. Anyway, that's it's good. It would again hover between a 4 and a 5 kind of comprehension level, just because it's very like colloquial. Some of the characters don't speak like really clearly, but it's okay. It's a good show. And again, these are just like an example of the sort of things I'm watching on YouTube. Okay, I'm reading. I don't read that much, to be honest. Like the last like week or so I've been reading a little bit more, but I recorded on my tablet, I think here, yeah. So this is just a chapter from Harry Potter, I think it's the 3rd book, and I decided to take a few minutes and highlight all the words on the page that I wasn't 100% sure on, you know? Like I didn't look all these up, but it was just to sort of visually have a record of, yeah, what I wasn't sure about. So some of these words I just had no idea. Some of them I had a bit of an idea, like words like this, ungeheuer. It's like I kind of know what that means, but I kind of don't. So I just, you know, was very broad with it. So I did that. So like I can read through Harry Potter, yeah, at a level 4. Like there's still lots of words, as you can see, that I don't know, but it's not enough to throw me off the story. Like it's sort of rare now that I would get to a part in a book and not understand what's happening, you know? So that's good. So like with reading, I'm fine. Like I'm reading The Book Thief at the moment as well. And like there's a lot of words that I don't know, but I'm familiar with the story already. And I understand enough to like happily sit through it. So that's what I'm currently reading. Yeah, I'm still on the 3rd Harry Potter book. I'm nearly finished, but I just sort of lost interest in it, so I haven't gone back to it. So there's an article as well that I found from the Deutsche Welle website. Again, a sort of like that Kindle video that I had. I've underlined words or phrases that I just wasn't 100% sure about. Just again, like visually see what kind of level, like what frequency of words that I'm not sure about. Yeah, and then so I figured out that there was like 32 unknown words there, so the comprehension level was technically 95%. I would say that I understood that like a mid 4. Like it wasn't strong. It wasn't anywhere near 5 there. It was like a bit more difficult. I'd say if I went through and read it 1 or 2 more times, it'd be okay. And looked up some words. Yeah, so the website said this was part of their C1, C2 article section. Just give some references to what level this is supposed to be. And then my listening. So at the moment, all of my passive listening has been, like, for the past solid year plus, has been easy German. And then also this new podcast I found. It's like a Harry Potter thing, Hagrid's Hoot. It's very good. It's just like fun. There's a lot of content in it. There, these two guys who are just going through the books chapter by chapter, giving like a not a review but like a recap, and it's just fun. If anyone's learning German, I definitely recommend listening to this. If you're at the stage where you can actually listen to a podcast, it's good. So these two podcasts are quite different. Like obviously, Easy German is meant for people learning, and the other one is just native normal stuff. So I think I talked about Easy German before. So they're not teaching you stuff, they're kind of just having conversations about everyday vocabulary, everyday things. So they're using a lot of, normal vocabulary, nothing too wild. So I took a 10-minute excerpt from one of the episodes, and there was 9 words that I wasn't 100% on. Like, I can listen to Easy German at I'm a little hesitant to say I can actually understand everything properly at level 5, anything at level 5, but with Easy German, just because of the fact that there's so few, there's relatively few things that I don't understand, so I do understand close to everything, and I have no doubt that there's a lot of subtle meaning that I am losing. So I'd say with something like that, it would be closer to a 5 there. Hagrid's Hoot is different. It's definitely 4, but I'm very comfortable listening to it. I think the problem with, since I've been doing this for so long, I actually realised I don't notice when I'm not understanding things. Like if I think back on something I listened to, I was like, oh yeah, I understood. I got the gist of everything that was going on, I followed the story. But when I go back and with a fine-tooth comb go through and list all the things that I didn't understand, I won't even have noticed that there was that word that I didn't hear, or not that I didn't hear, I heard it, but it doesn't stick out to me that that's a word that I don't know, just because I've gotten so used to the ambiguity. I've gotten so used to it, I'm so comfortable with it that I don't even notice. And I think it's a little bit too lax, because if I was a bit more observant about things, maybe I'd pick up on more. That's just something that I realised over the last couple of months, is that I'm very okay with ambiguity. It doesn't bother me, as long as I can follow what's happening. If it's too much and I can't follow the story, or if I can't follow a conversation, well then it's maybe a bit frustrating. But when it's not impeding that too much, which sort of leads into the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which was the language exchange that I have. So that's been going on for almost a year. I think I did mention it in the other update that I did. So I don't speak any German in this language exchange, but it's nice. We've just sort of become friends now. So we'll do half the time just in English, and then half the time with me in English, and them in German, which is grand. And they speak very normally, it's just normal conversations, which is nice. And it's a normal pace as well. She's not slowing down to accommodate me or anything. So that's nice. Move on to Anki. Hopefully that's not going to take too long. So I have the stats open here. So I have the 2 different types, because they don't have the same thing on both anymore. Okay, well, forget about that. So to go over the last year or so, it was very consistent for a long time, as you can see there. I did have a bit of a drop off with Anki around November, December, January. I sort of was I didn't burn out with it, I just wasn't bothered with it anymore. So I kind of let it go. I kept up with the reviews for about a month, and then there was a stage where I wasn't doing much at all in general, stopped doing the reviews, and then I kind of got back into it at the end of January there. End of January, I started adding new cards and actually, doing a bit of sentence mining, which I'll talk about later. But as of now, you can see here, I haven't touched Anki in 3 weeks, and I have 350 reviews. So I'll go into that as well a little bit later, what my plan is with this. So what I did with that was, first of all, I was using Toggle for about 2 weeks. I only used it for 2 weeks. But it was interesting to see kind of what the days look like. All the green stuff is some sort of immersion. The blue is Anki. So yeah, it's a bit all over the place. But as you can see, I'd normally start around 10 o'clock. Yeah, I'd be up until, 11, 12. I think this was time boxing over here. Yeah, pretty much just for 2 weeks, and I ended up not doing that much immersion in that time, actually. But what I also have is, so for the time that I was actually using it, I have 25 hours of immersion. So that was YouTube or Netflix. The study section, I tracked doing reps, and then I also tracked making cards. So that's that. italki is not me taking lessons, it's me teaching. Yeah, so you can get a bit of idea of what that's like. Toggle, it was nice that you can get a little extension. I think I got rid of it. You can get an extension there, and it's pretty easy to track what you're doing. I know you can get stuff on your phone with multiple timers that you can use. I find this was working pretty good. You can get a desktop version of it as well if anyone's interested in actually tracking their time. It's not too much hassle, and it gives you, some nice reports and things like that. And then the other thing that I have is this sheet, which is not mine. I edited it a bit from a sheet that, okay, hang on. hang on, need your name. Okay, Justin Armstrong, that's who I'm trying to think of. There is an updated video that he had, and he linked very kindly to the sheet that he had made. So that's what this is. Yes, I have my totals. These are my YouTube. I only started tracking this from August, so it's not the whole time. I took some averages for my YouTube watching and like backtracked what I think I would have been doing before that. So that's about another 340 hours. So I suppose add that to the 380, then yeah, that's at least 700 hours. So this is just YouTube. This is my podcast stuff. So that's all my passive immersion. My podcast addict gives you lots of statistics and stuff like that, which is good. So that's how much I was doing normally. And the other sheet that I have is for TV shows and films. I'm not like religious about keeping this up to date, so there's probably a lot of things on this list that might be missing. So all this information is taken into account over here. So that's like my statistics. I saw somewhere someone had asked about like what a normal day would have been. I'll quickly go through what I normally would have done like 4 months ago, because like I have not really that much consistency at the moment. So for the majority of the time, the majority of the last year and a half, my normal routine would be like weekdays. Weekdays I have work just on the weekends, so weekdays were pretty free. I'd usually get up about 8 and half 8, 9, sometime around there. And I have like wireless earbuds, so I'll connect those in the morning and just immediately start listening to something, podcast, probably Easy German, or I don't know, I think I started listening to Hagrid's Hütte about 4 months ago, maybe. Yeah, a little while ago. So I'll be listening to that, like getting dressed, going out. I go out for a walk in the morning, get a coffee, come back. And then for the time that I get up until the time that I get back to the house, I'm usually listening to something, which is, I don't know, 40 minutes maybe. And then I'll sit down, watch some YouTube for 30, 40 minutes while I have like breakfast and all that kind of stuff. I had some coursework. There's a few online courses that I was taking at the time, so they didn't require very much hours throughout the week anyway. So if there's something that I was needing to do for those, then I'd do that for maybe an hour, a couple days a week. And it sort of just went back and forth between like watching YouTube, watching something on Netflix, maybe a little bit of reading, usually not. And when I was looking back on my written track sheets that I had, I think I mentioned them in an older video, like my active immersion time, even when I had all day, was like an average of about 3 hours. Sometimes it was 2, sometimes it was like 4 or 5, but I suppose it averages at about 3. So even when I had the whole day, I didn't want to sit down and just watch, Netflix all day or YouTube all day or read all day. I just didn't have like that stamina. So there was like other things that I would do throughout the day. So that's, yeah, pretty much what a normal day would have looked like. I did my Anki like reviews in the evening. I don't know why, I just prefer to do them in the evening. And then I would, if I was making cards, I'd usually sit down and do it for a while rather than doing little bits. I found I did those earlier in the day, sort of what that looked like. Okay, so that's time spent. So I've done like a little bit in this regard, but not like too much. Over kind of November, December, January, I did some lessons. It was sort of fun. I did one. I had like a 30-minute one, and I was like, oh yeah, I can talk. I can express myself to an extent. There's still a lot of things that I can't say. I did it at the time because I was enjoying them, and then I kind of stopped enjoying them, so I stopped doing it. But within that time, I decided to try and do a like mock exam. So there was an older professional like teacher that I'd gone to like a year and a half, 2 years ago on Italki that helped me do a mock exam and got it marked and everything like that. I think she's like used to be like an examiner in one of those exams. So I was able to pass like a B1 TELC. No, that's English, is it? I don't remember what the name of the exam is. So I was able to pass the B1 like I find it relatively easy. I didn't find it challenging. I suppose the only challenging part maybe was when I was like sitting down to try and write the letter part. But just because I don't have any practice with like writing things. So that was pretty good. I've looked at the B2 exam and it's definitely quite a significant like step up. I wouldn't be confident that I could pass it. Maybe I could pass the like comprehension parts of it, but I don't know about the written part. I'd say you need to have much better grasp on grammar, and then the speaking as well would be a lot more challenging. So I don't know what that would be like. I feel like I make still very basic mistakes. Like maybe I use, when I say wrong tenses, I mean like there's something that would normally be expressed in one tense that I don't know. I would say it in a different way. So just things like that I don't know. Gender, I know the gender of some words, but like definitely not all of them, which means that I don't get the adjective endings correct. It's like a knock-on effect. So I've written here that I don't have a feel for most cases. So it's sort of, I know some of them, like just because I've heard set phrases so many times, but I wouldn't be confident that I can get it right more than 50% of the time. Like it's kind of just chance, that's sort of the odds that it feels like at the moment. I feel like I'm just shooting in the dark when I say things a lot of the time. And there's someone that I do like a really small bit of speaking with somewhat regularly. Well, I don't speak that much. They kind of just speak to me in German for about 15 minutes and I'll answer a little bit. But it's the sort of thing like when I say something and every now and again I'm like, is that right? And they're like, yeah, that whole sentence was perfect. So it's sort of at the stage where when I get one whole sentence correct, it's like, okay, cool, that's big deal, So I can get the point across, but it's definitely not particularly like proud to be going around speaking German, it's not there. But that's okay, it's fine. I don't really have any want to be going and chatting up a storm. Actually, something I forgot to mention as well with the output. I was in Discord server. It was actually the Hagrid's Hütte Discord server, which is nice. I went into one of the chat channels, thinking that I would just sit there muted and listen. That's all I wanted to do. But they seem very like interactive with each other. So they were like, oh, who's this person? They had their mic muted. So I unmuted myself for a little bit. I think the reason it didn't go well was just because I was so nervous. It probably sounded like I had been learning German for all of 2 months. I didn't really say much, and I was like, oh, I didn't like that. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the speaking. Okay, so current going forward. Yeah, so to go into a little bit why I had such like a downturn of like productivity during November to January. Yeah, the whole thing, I think I mentioned it before, I had German as like my number one priority, and then at some point realized that I hadn't left myself time to think about other things, such as what am I going to do career-wise, like work-wise, because hopefully COVID isn't going to last forever. So I need to go out and get an actual job rather than, what I'm doing at the moment, which is a lot of free time, which is nice, but like it's not sustainable. So I took that time to kind of, I didn't really feel in the right mindset to be doing anything with German. I let myself do whatever I wanted, just kind of chill out. I watched a lot of English Netflix and a lot of English YouTube, which is fine because I needed it at the time. And then I decided that I'm going back to college to, get qualified in something, which would be nice. So going forward, that means that German is not like a number one priority. It's like, realistically, it should be like 3. I don't know if I have a number 2 priority, but something else could be more important than that. So for now, like I'm not doing that much less than I normally would have, but it just means that when like college, university stuff starts, I'm totally fine with just putting German not on the back burner, but like, not feeling that I need to do a certain amount a day, because that's what I have been doing for so long. So I've sort of left that now, which is part of the reason that I'm not doing Anki anymore. I couldn't really be bothered, to be completely honest. It's not like I burnt out because I wasn't doing loads of it, but I just sort of, it fizzled out kind of slowly, So I've replaced, well, not really replaced, but sort of replaced Anki with I've gotten a 1 month, I'm trying it out for a month, the learning languages with Netflix, the like pro version of it. I think it's like €4 or €5, which is not that much money, but yeah, it's a little bit more than you would assume it would be. So I'm doing that, which is basically sort of like Link, but just for subtitles. You can highlight known words, and you can like look them up. You can do quick, just like hover over look up words, and then you can also look up on like, I think they have Pons and a couple other dictionaries like put in, but you can put in whatever dictionary you want, and it'll open up a little window for you. I've been doing that, and I've actually really liked it. It's nice just to get a little quick like, oh, what does this mean? Okay, mark it. If it comes up again, you're more likely to take notice of it because it's coloured, that sort of thing. And I know that that's the general premise for what the Migaku browser add-on is going to be. I think they have Japanese, I think they call it parsing, I don't know. Basically, you can do what this add-on does with Japanese with the Migaku one at the moment. German, other languages aren't supported. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like when it does come out. I have tried whatever version they have out now at the moment for the Patreon people, and it's like, yeah, I've used it a bit, and it's okay. It doesn't look great, but that's not really what they're going for at the moment, just kind of get things working. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on for when new things come out, but at the moment, definitely having this add-on it's a lot better. Like, I've been using it a lot with this show. Just unmute this real quick. So yeah, just like little things like this. Yeah, I have genuinely just find it kind of useful, and because it's like connected with YouTube, all that stuff sort of works together, and it's nice. So I've been happily using that. If it keeps going the way it's been going for the last week or so, I'm very happy to just do that instead of Anki. Maybe I'll just keep up with the reviews, although it just means I have to get through the little pile up I have. Yeah, just that and a bit of reading. I suppose it's like a natural SRS. I know it's probably not as like efficient as Anki, but to be honest, right now I don't really care. And then German IT courses. So to kind of prepare myself for going back to college, there's a few courses that I've been doing over the summer, over the last few months. As like a little review, I decided to find a couple of them in German. So I'm like 2 birds, 1 stone situation, which is good. And then yeah, that's about it. Oh, I have the last point. Exciting. Some of the courses that I'm looking at, the top 2 ones that I'd like to do, both have Erasmus options. So one of them, my preferential, the one that I want to get, the course that I want to get into, basically, they have an Erasmus for a whole year, or you can do 1 term or you can do 2 terms. So could be like a year, maybe 10 months so that's available in the 2nd year. And then another course that I'm looking at has a 1 year also Erasmus, but in 3rd year. So it's sort of an exciting thing to look at. If I get the course that I want to get, the Erasmus year, it won't necessarily be in German. Like, it says that the course is in English, but I suppose just being in Germany, being in a university there, you're going to get a fair amount of German anyway. And I'm kind of thinking, if that happens, it'll be over a year from now, but another year of doing what I'm doing now, potentially. We'll see how it goes with going back to college. But I could be in a place that I would happily be able to like live in Germany for a while. And I think in a year from now, it would be like a good time to do that different sort of immersion, you know, where there's like actual people to talk to. So that's something to kind of work towards. And then I think that's about it for now. If there's anything that I forgot that people are interested in asking about, just leave it in the comments and I'll get back to that. And then, yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it for another 6 months. By then I'll probably have started university again, and I'll know roughly what the schedule is looking like, how much I'm able to do. So I suppose this is the end of 18 months where you could potentially be if you have 2 to 4 hours a day to kind of do stuff. Like I'm not, like I think I said earlier in this video, like I was very, you know, intense about it in the beginning, and I was very intense about not having English and switching anything that I could to German. It was also, I wasn't doing like 5+ hours a day regularly, you know, I wasn't absolutely mad about it. I did, you know, as much as I was comfortably able to do. If you have 2 or 3 hours a day to actually sit down and do stuff, probably like 4 hours including Anki and everything, maybe this is where you could get to. I don't know. I feel like I'm not the best example of what you can achieve because I haven't been like that observant. I'm very much just let everything wash over me, not paying particular attention to anything, you know. I've heard from other people who've been doing this a lot less time than I have and seem to have picked up, you know, certain aspects relatively quickly that I still haven't picked up, you know, to something to do with like grammar and things like that I just have let like go over my head. So I don't know whether that's a good thing, whether that will just come with time, whether, you know, slightly more intentional mindset is something that's needed. I'm not sure, but I was very relaxed when I was doing everything, you know. I was never always like looking loads of things up. I don't read that often. At the moment I'm reading a paperback, so I'm not like looking up any words. So that's kind of where things are at the moment. So I suppose, yeah, do the update maybe in 6 months. We'll see how things are then.